All right, students, good morning, everyone. I know this is weird to have class on a Saturday or a Sunday, but it's not a class, it's just a review. So, how has everyone been? How has your rotations been? How busy have you guys been? How well, I know you all always mention about being very frustrated. I am sorry that the workload has been packed so much, but pandemic conditions, that's all I could think of and say. So, any responses? How has the rotations been? You all learning stuff? You all enjoying it? Is it making sense? Is it all coming together? All right, I guess people are shy this morning. Nobody wants to chat. Shanice, nope. Okay, fine. Nobody wants to chat. All right, well then let's get straight into it then. So we're gonna look at your second course. Well, didn't make much sense because we didn't learn a lot. Too short. Okay, so Mel, I understand. I understand it was essentially about 3 weeks, right? Um, oh, oh no, no, the rotation's not making sense. Really? And this is Dingra, right? Dingra is the person who organized this. Um, when you say it not making sense, just simply that you all would have had rotations for 3 weeks, or is it that when you go onto the rotation site, it's not useful, or are you allowed on the rotation site at all? Because we are focus mode. Hey, real assignments, real assignments. I don't know what to say. I guess because some of these assignments, if it is that you all will do it, it may push you guys further back. So those are discussions. I guess when we have examiners meeting, hopefully we can discuss this if if there is some input from the class in an official manner to perhaps the director, I would suggest the class rep, put forward some information to the director in a organized format so that it can be discussed. And maybe we can look at next semester's scheduling to be different, or find new ways in which we could assist the students in ensuring that their rotation period is fruitful. All right. Okay, so Leandra. And by the time you learn where all the drugs were and some of the brand names, you have to move to another site and learn it over again. Okay, well, what you have to learn over again, Leandra, is where the location is. You would have already known what the drugs are and what the brands are, right? So this is I'm assuming, well, community has brand names, and also, well, public as well. So yeah, I hear you. I understand. Like, I can completely understand the dilemma that some of you are facing, but like all of you are facing. No hospital carry other brand names. Okay, I know the hospital is usually known for carrying, a lot of generics. Maybe easy. Okay, so I understand. All right, so let's get into our review. And so after we're gonna review the, oh, we should review the lit review as well, right? So we have the lit review, and then we have the second in course, and then we're gonna just review the course in preparation for the final exam. All right. So are we all ready and good to go? Let's go. So for your lit review, um, the question was discussing the mental effects of COVID-19 on the workplace. And um, essentially, COVID-19 in the workplace has brought about a lot of fears and anxieties. And because it's a new virus, not fully understood, there were lots of short-term and long-term complications, and those varied. The vulnerable population. Who is the vulnerable population for COVID-19? Who's the vulnerable population? Who's the vulnerable population for COVID-19? Persons with chronic diseases and the elderly. Yes, right. So that's what, and I said that because these people are already in a health deficit position. The vulnerable population. So transmission. The fear is transmission from the workplace, and you carry it home to your families and jeopardize the infants at home, the elderly at home. And then when you have to go into quarantine, you're restricting your freedom, which brings even more anxieties to you. That now has effects mentally. Um, Also, persons who would have lost jobs, people who in the movie industry, in the restaurant industry, all of those persons lost jobs or lost income. I remember saying in class, I think I did that, one of the restaurant workers said that they get 2 days off every 2 weeks, two days work every 2 weeks. So imagine moving from a salary of, let's just say 10 days, to moving us 10 days every 2 weeks to now 2 days every 2 weeks. So all of these things bring an immense amount of pressure, mental pressure and fear, anxieties onto the person. And um, I went on to even to break it down even further into the fear and the mental effects among staff. And so amongst your staff, they're going to have mental fatigue, depression at the workplace, which is the worst, distraction, which is perhaps the least bad. You're just distracted, but you can get back onto it if you just shake yourself off. Um, these things can lead to workplace errors, workplace conflict, and conflict in particular. I was hoping that's something that you could have expanded a little more. Conflict as a result of scarce resources, behaviors, ideas, and opinion. Because this was a relatively new virus, you remember some of the antecedent conditions for conflict. One of them is scarce resources, behaviors, conflict of behavior. You might be interested in doing things to protect yourself and your family, or to prevent the spread from a public health standpoint, but there may be others in your department that not doing it. It's a conflict of behaviors. Similarly, along those lines, conflict of ideas. The others in your department may have different ideas and different preconceived notions about the virus, different opinions about the virus. So conflict, workplace conflict, definitely would be occurring, especially in workplaces that are non-health related. Um, you would see those happening. Workplace anger. People are on edge. People will be on edge and angry, and all of this has to do with they being in a state of fear, panic, anxiety. And as a result of this, there will be a lot of maladaptive approaches in terms of the coping mechanisms. So people would start to have increase in alcohol intake, tobacco, other drugs to other drugs and other unhealthy behaviors to help to cope through the anxiety and the fear as a result of coronavirus. And the next categorization that I was looking for is amongst management. So mentally, management is in crisis mode, they're in constant crisis mode. They are constantly evaluating operations, constantly looking at the financial position and obligations, your HR obligations. So well, we all know what crisis mode is. Crisis mode, crisis, the leadership needed in crisis, the communication needed in crisis, evaluating your operations. Um, do we have do we need to shed, or follow some staff or adjust our times because we were all affected by government mandates on how what time we can open, what time we have to close, etc. If we are open at all, so your operations get evaluated, your financial position and your financial obligations. Are you able to generate enough revenue to cover your expenses? And these are constant questions that management had to were asking. The HR obligations, of course, the um, sending home of staff, the adjustment of staff hours, those things. From a management perspective as well, you would definitely need to want to consider, or not consider, you should do a risk assessment of your organization and how it can be affected by COVID-19. Um, Yes, and all of the things like creating physical distancing infrastructure and monitoring it. You want to have these new rules and policies that must be created, but must be also monitored and implemented properly. It makes no sense you have rules on paper that's not getting done. The rules are there for a reason. And I wanted some discussion as well on home being the new workplace, and how does home being the new workplace affect things. There is no separation or no proper allotment of work times and family times. That's an issue. That's an issue that's challenging many people. You would hear some person saying that you're working from home. Yes, it might. You don't have to get up and go in traffic and dress up, etc. But they're saying that at home work does not stop, meaning that you might work for 2 hours this morning, you might have a long break, and then you might have to work till the night. So now there is no real demarcation, and there's no real amount of set personal time and set work time. So these things are causing issues as well. Um, right? Parents are now teachers. This is a big thing. Parents are now teachers and facilitators of kids' education. For those of you who have kids, and I can imagine how tough it would have been for you to attend classes. You have your own online classes, and you have your kids with online classes. If you have more than one or more than two kids, you have several kids that require some electronic device to engage in their class. And then further to that, now you also would need to be doing even more homework and more activities, educational activities with your kids based on the guidance of the teachers. So that is also an issue that I would have liked to mention as well. This home being a new workplace, and parents and our teachers and facilitators of education of their kids, this would increase the workload and distractions. So it's all of these things are now mentally going to be building up and affecting the person. Right. So we talk about issues with sharing laptops and phones. Through some solutions, and the new workplace, because the new workplace is a highly adaptable, has a highly adaptable structure. The new workplace will do well, or will have a better chance of being successful, surviving in this type of environment, because the new workplace has lots of flexibility in it, and we spoke about this in lectures many times over. So there's flexible scheduling, some solutions, flexible scheduling, vigilance from maladaptive approaches and maladaptive coping mechanisms. That means, although you might be working from home, as the management, you should be looking out for, and and asking questions of your staff. How are they doing? How are they going? Noticing certain behaviors, certain trends, and so you can make the right types of interventions um, sooner rather than later, to get them away from these maladaptive approaches. Big part of the solution as well is emotional intelligence. We talk about emotional intelligence being understanding, being empathetic, understanding and appreciating the challenges that your employees have to go through, that they also now have to add to their table of activities, that now includes looking after kids at a lot more, for a lot more time. How this is affecting them, how this is affecting they may have elderly persons at home, they may have young kids, all of these fears. You must be emotionally intelligent to understand and appreciate all of their fears, and then working with them. All right. Physical security, well, and this now would tie into a support system, and you would see, especially in some of the larger organizations, but small organizations can do it as well. uh, to scale, small organization might do it in an informal way, whereas a large organization will have a defined structure, um, and a financing mechanism for EAP, Employee Assistance Programs. So this is all part of the solution as well, to help treat with the mental effects of COVID-19. And finally, I was looking for solutions to ensure, as an organization, as the manager, as management of an organization, that you do all in your power, and make sure and do your part to ensure that physically things are done that are meant for the protection and the safety of your staff. So for your staff that have to come to work, that have to be in your physical brick and mortar environment, or have to go out there, if going out there is part of their essential job, that all is being done to protect them. They get their PPE that they need. They have their hand washing stations. They have their sanitizers. They see that you are regularly cleaning, sanitizing the place. They see that you're following public health regulations in terms of the amount of persons you are allowing in your place. Staff needs to see physically what you are doing as management, to ensure that they are safe as well. All right, so that was your review for the lit review. Um, and I posted those grades already, so everybody knows what they got. Um, any questions on that before I move on to the second exam? Let me see what your grades were for that. So for the lit review. data. All right, so for the lit review, you don't want no questions. So for the lit review, we persons who have to take a bow: Shakila, Alexis, Katrina, and Alicia. Take a bow. You all did well. You all did really well in your lit review. Followed right closely behind by Jessie, Chelsea, Vellini. Um, Vellini and also Brittany. Brittany. So you guys did well. Take a bow. Um, you all did really well. For those who didn't who didn't perform so well, that's okay. Remember, this is all a learning process. The objective is not necessarily to get good grades all the time, but ensure that you pass your course and you learn and you grow and you develop. And I've actually seen some persons who may have started off a little who may not have gotten the highest grades in the first exam and they've been progressing well. Um, I think one person that I make mention of that is Jahil. Jahil has been doing pretty good. Jahil amongst a few other persons. But so I encourage everyone to keep at it, keep learning, keep trying, and I salute all of my students who got their high grades. All right, no questions so far. All right, good. So I'll move on to the second assignment. The second assignment, we asked, but this was an easy one. Um, Discuss the utility of an RFP and create one for outfitting a large organization with a disinfection system to be COVID-19 ready for full operations. So it was a bit subjective to say that we didn't specify what type of organization, but I wanted to at least make sure that you all have in mind it's a large organization, It's not a small one, it's a large organization. So it could be a complex, or it could be several facilities that fall under your umbrella of management. And well, the RFP format would be, and I know everyone took it straight from the lectures and straight from the example. That's fine. That's fine. Um, I was looking for you to explain what the RFP. Well, why do we need an RFP? And an RFP is needed because there is need for an external solution to a problem that the organization has identified, and you are now inviting persons externally to come in and provide solutions to that problem. And you are now going to be looking at all the different possible solutions to the problem because the RFP may not state specifically um, the solution you're looking for and just you're getting quotes for price, but it can be your RFP can just be stating your problem and inviting persons to solve this problem for you. All right. So that's the utility of an RFP. And I was looking for right. So duh, 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 duh. Right. Everyone pretty much follow the format, but there were certain things that I was looking for that you needed to consider for a large organization. Still no questions. Very good. And right. So the type of organization was a risk assessment done for exposure. Um, and I know that is something that should have been done. I know for a fact that the OSH Authority of Trinidad and Tobago were going out there to businesses and to organizations, asking for risk assessments to be done. Large organizations would have already had risk assessments done, but the medium to small ones, this would have been something new to them. Right. So risk assessment, installation and maintenance of sanitizing stations. You would want to know where sanitizing stations are, temperature checkpoints, and the ability of this solution to process the volume of persons at an acceptable rate at the entrance. And this is important because remember I said it's a large organization. So you would want to be looking at the possible solution to be able to handle volume of persons coming in for your solution to be as efficient as is possible because it's a large organization. All right, so you may want to look at um, uh, uh, machinery rather than having to use physical manpower to have to um, sort through sanitizing and temperature checkpoints of persons. Um, Ease of access and who will maintain and refill or maintain your sanitizing solution, your washroom facility, all of those things. All of it that should have been part of the RFP as well as to declare who's going to be how it's going to be maintained and the type of chemical being used, the price, is it eco-friendly, is it user-friendly? All of these are questions that you would want to have answered in your RFP. And this was one part that not much students got, which was the HVAC and airflow. HVAC is heating, ventilation, air conditioning. That is in a large organization, again, in a large organization, let's say it's a 15-story building. How air conditioning is done is important to know about airflow. And remember, this virus is a respiratory borne not to just droplet, but aerosol generating. So HVAC would also need to be looked at as well in your RFP. Things like fogging and misting, even looking at possible rapid COVID-19 testing, because we now have rapid finger stick testing that's been rolled out all over the world. And how could that have been used in your um, sanitizing, disinfecting, or COVID-19 preparation for reopening? You have sanitizing, yes, but you can also have testing. You have mask wearing, yes, but you can also have testing. Isolation areas. Is your RFP going to help identify isolation areas or set up an isolation area? Is it going to help or show you how to do contact tracing logs? Is that going to be part of it? And finally, does the RFP, does the contractor now come in with some expertise on how to um, help with policy development? So those were the items that I was looking for students in their RFP beyond the standard format that you would have followed. But these are some key elements that should have been part of the RFP in determining its preparation for reopening during a pandemic, reopening to ensure that staff is kept safe and all customers are also kept safe. And I'm saying this because I want you all to be aware that um, there are at least three cases, sorry, of persons who I know. Both of them are medical based. Actually, all of them are medical based persons, and they contracted COVID-19 after attending. One attended a private clinic, the other is a physician who works both public and private, and the third is a drug distributor. So all of these persons, and the third person went in to get a scan done somewhere, and he came home with COVID-19. So the RFP for disinfection and for being COVID-19 ready is very relevant in today's times because we have persons who might be taking things for granted, making assumptions, and we want to be as prepared as we can be so that we do not continue the transmission. The whole point about COVID-19 and its spread is about transmission. If it is we don't interact with people, then great. But the reality is that we have to interact with people. We have to now get back to normal. We have to get back to business. And for us to get back to business, to get back to getting the wheels of progress turning, we need to be prepared and be ready for this continuous presence of the virus until everyone gets vaccinated. All right. So those were the reviews of the lit review and the second. Oh, sorry. I have another question. So the other question um, of the second exam was explain the importance of the income statement analysis during COVID-19, the pandemic, and discuss the elements which require careful and continuous attention and strategies needed to maintain sustainability. So the income statement is also called your profit and loss statement. Um, and we all must realize that there is a huge revenue shortfall. And I'm happy to see that many of the students um, recognize this in their answers. And I reflected upon your first in-course assignment where many of you had the belief that coronavirus was causing panic buying and it caused an increase in revenue. Yes, there was a small spike in revenue because of persons preparing and purchasing, but thereafter and soon thereafter, there were huge revenue shortfalls. There were huge revenue shortfalls, and as a result, many organizations, especially for-profit organizations, they had to look at their income statements on a weekly or a monthly basis to determine if the revenues that they are now getting can actually cover all of the expenses. And remind me, students, expenses in your income statement include expenses in your income statement include anyone? Yes, overhead expenses, Kavita P. And what else? Overhead expenses and what else? When we talk about expenses in the income statement, don't forget that, right? Cost of goods sold. Right, so all overheads must be looked at in particular um, and adjusted where possible to fall in line with the revenue shortfall. Now, the overheads include things like your rent, your utilities, your insurance, your um, what else? Rent, utilities, insurance, salaries, of course, absolutely important. Um, and I saw some of you mentioning cost of goods sold, but you were saying that higher prices during COVID-19 times would now increase your expenses and therefore reduce your revenue. Now, that isn't completely correct. That isn't correct, actually, because remember, if you are paying a higher price for an item, therefore you will be selling that price for higher. unless you are choosing to absorb the additional cost of the item. All businesses operate on a specific, they work with a markup, they work with a specific margin. So no matter what the cost price of the item is, you use your markup and you get your selling price. Now, if you keep your selling price the same and you just allow your cost price to keep going up. That's right. Yes, yes, Kavita P. Um, and if you allow your cost price to keep increasing, and you are not your selling price is not increasing with it, then you are literally reducing your margin. And I don't think any business operates like that. You have a standard margin that you apply, and you have a markup that you apply. So once your cost of goods sold increases, your selling price increases. So that is not supposed to reduce your revenue. It's actually supposed to increase your revenue to an extent. And hopefully the profit that you get from it, the margin that you get from this increase in cost price is now going to help to offset some of your overhead expenses, because your overhead expenses generally don't change as rapidly as your cost of goods sold. All right, understand? I hope you all can appreciate that your rent is usually fixed for a long period of time. Your um your your utilities are usually fixed for a long period of time, but your cost of goods sold usually have fluctuations, sometimes 2 to 3 months, 6 months, sometimes within a year. Whereas your rent and utilities and all of those other things, they usually remain constant for several years. All right? Right. So So you'd want to get now, so you'd want to get for your overheads, you want to ensure that your staff salaries are low. You have the leanest, we like to use the term in management, lean management. So you have lean staff. You have the least amount of staff that is necessary, or you have staff doing the least amount of hours that is necessary to remain in operation, and also to keep staff salaries to at a reasonable amount that you can still afford without having to send home persons. Rent reduction, this is something that you may have to now have a little chat with your landlord. If he or she is interested, or if sometimes a landlord can be an organization that you have to request and apply to have an adjustment. So it will help with your monthly operational expenses. Lower utility use and consumption. Simple things like electricity rates, perhaps your cable bill, your telephone bills, the water rates, so any type of utility rates that can be reduced. Loan payment deferrals, and this was something I don't know if how many of you would have been aware, but many of the banks were were um, were asked to do deferrals by the government. So persons who got deferrals, individuals as well as organizations, got deferrals on paying their loans. Um, because of the incredible shortfall, um, they wanted to give people a chance to literally catch themselves to get back up on their feet before they can start back paying their loans. So loan payment and deferrals. Um, right, another important one, eliminate temporarily all non-essential spending. I saw some students mention this. I was very happy to see this. Spending on components of spend only on components of operation that are essential for operation, right? Absolutely essential only for operation. Reduce reduce any unnecessary expenses. Sometimes advertising may have to go. You might be doing advertisements on radio and TV, and we all know how expensive they are. Um, you eliminate those things. Eliminate anything that is not necessary to ensure operations are continuing, to ensure that your organization is sustained. Right? So stock purchase, right? So stock purchase, you have to keep your stock tight. You cannot have many days of inventory that you perhaps had before. So your days of inventory should be no more than 1 to 3 days in a retail environment, because you simply don't have the luxury of putting out cash that you are paying out cash to have sit on a shelf for 2 to 3 months, maybe even 4 months. That cash that is on the shelf is not being converted in time into revenue that you can use now to pay your rent for these 2 to 3 months. So don't waste money in having inventory sit on your shelf for several months. You want at least one to, well, minimum one, maximum 3 days inventory. All right. Um, Keep your accounts receivables active and low, meaning you want to ensure that you are not giving out too much of credit. And if you are giving credit, that your receivables department is active in following up on these credit payments, these receivables. Um, innovate, innovate and find new revenue streams with little to no need for capital injection. Innovate, so there's two parts here. Innovate to find new revenue streams, new services. So it can be something brand new that you want to create, or it can be something that can be done with your current operational activities, and that's called the marginal cost, where there is no need to spend new money to create the service. It can be done with the current persons you employ, with the current infrastructure that you have, with the current space that you have. And that's a new service that you can do, that you can create at a marginal cost to increase your revenue stream, or it can be something brand new, or it can be something a whole new business that you can look at that might be relevant to COVID-19. I remember I gave an example to you guys that your very favorite app called Facebook, they were able to generate 30 billion US dollars. Let me say it slowly, 30 billion US dollars within 2 months, I believe, because we now had persons not working and they jumped on the wagon to create Facebook. I think it's meeting rooms or meeting rooms, or yeah, I think it's meeting rooms, which was an extension of the Messenger app that can now facilitate persons having parties, virtual parties, work meetings, etc. And um, we all know of what Zoom did. Zoom moved from 10 million customers per day to 200 million customers per day. So Zoom is now in the um, billion dollar valuation. And lastly, look for new or maintain your high margin items. Your high margin items, there may be some products in your organization, or some services in your organization that you have a high margin on. Focus on it, ensure that these are always there, because this would be an opportunity to get the most amount of revenue from the least amount of inputs. And this is where you can use that additional revenue. If you can push more of those high margin services that can generate more revenue for you to help offset your expenses, your overheads expenses. So your cost of goods sold as an expense pays for itself, right? Because remember, as I said, if you're paying more for an item, you should be charging more for an item to the customer, because your margin is supposed to be fixed, right? It moves this way. Cost of goods, selling price. If cost of goods go up, selling price goes up, right? It must move the same. So your margin remains the same. Your overhead expenses is the one that would need help to get paid for, and having high margin products and services can help, and you push more. Getting more volume of your high margin products and services can definitely help getting overhead expenses cleared. All right, so that was your second assignment. Let me see how you all did with the second assignment. All right. So for your second assignment, we have persons that need to take a bow, and that would be Jahil, take a bow. Brittany, Kavita P, Kazian, and Melissa. You all can take a bow because you all got top marks in this second assignment, and followed closely by Videsh, Kavita R, um, Kavita R, Leandra, Valini, and Precious. So well done, and as I said with the little review, well done on those who did well, and use this as a platform to continue doing better. For those who didn't do so well, that's okay. Learn, develop, grow, um, and look at where you can improve, and move on from there. All right. The purpose at the end of your programs are always to um, get things right, get it correct, understand the concepts, and it would mean along the way, you may do well or you may not do well. That's okay. All right. So that, dear students, is our review for for this course. I invite any questions from anyone. That we have a few more minutes remaining. Any questions, any queries from anyone? So everyone everyone is going to receive their 5% attendance grade. So that's there. You have your 5% attendance grade. Um, yep. All right. Again, any questions, any queries from anyone? No questions, no queries? You all ready for exam tomorrow? Tomorrow, let me take a look at your question paper again here. Right. Yep. So your exam paper covers everything, all of your topics. Um, yep, all of your topics are covered in your final exam. So, okay, here we go. Questions. Any, Leandra? Well, what I don't want, I can't don't mark hard tomorrow. Kavita R, you all have to understand. I would say this over and over to you all. You all are part of a university that's ranked amongst the top 4% in the world. So your degrees can't come easy. And I'm not saying that we go out there to mark that, but we have to ensure that your exams challenge the students to ensure that they understand the material and they can also think critically. Um, Only essay questions, Katrina. All essay questions. 6 questions. It's um it's 6 questions. Yeah, 6 questions. 6 questions. Oh, right. One other thing before I forget. Please, Kavita, I just don't feel anyone. Well, as you can see, or maybe you know, I have not failed anyone. I have not failed anyone, although sometimes some of the answers that I read, I just wonder which class these students were in. So I haven't failed anyone. Um, Leandra asked for hints. What can I tell you other than, well, let me see, the lectures that we did were, let me see what these lectures were here. Right, lectures. Right, so depreciation and conflict, Um, project management for sure. Um, we did inventory management. So we did depreciation, conflict, inventory management. We did ratios, and we did HR. So that's why I said all of your topics that we did are coming in the exam. I wanted to ask everyone, please use 1.5 spacing and 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 easy to read font. Please, please do me a favor. Use 1.5 spacing and an easy to read font so that my eyes don't get frustrated having to read through some of the answers, all right? Um, Kavita R says don't mark hard, right? And she said don't fail anyone. Only answer questions. Yes. All right. Okay. Any other questions from anyone? I'm urging everyone again. Read the question properly and answer the question as asked. I know some of you might want to uh, write over your lectures in the answers, and in a hope that it might stimulate you to find the answer to the question. But remember, these exams are meant to test and determine not recall, but also application of the material into the real life scenarios. All right. So, if there are no other questions, I bid you all farewell and good luck. For those of you who I will not see on Tuesday, it has been a pleasure for me teaching you guys. I hope my lectures would have been enjoyable. I know it might be seen boring. We're in this room here and we don't have much interaction per se. Hopefully, next year I can improve on that. But for now, this is what I had to work with. So all the best to everyone tomorrow, and good luck. Enjoy your Christmas season. As soon as you complete your exams, I will start correcting them so I can submit these grades on time. It takes a lot out of me to correct these exams. I spend many nights, almost every night until 4 o'clock in the morning, correcting these papers. So as I was talking about the 1.5 spacing and the nice font, right? Okay, Katrina, you're welcome, and all the best, everyone. So take care. I'm gonna say all the best to everyone. Good. So long. Take care.